Well, here I am at the Denver Water Department Xeriscape landscape with Tim Lapan. Tim, I appreciate you joining me today.
Well,
I wanted to come out here today and look at this Xeriscape demonstration garden, which is absolutely beautiful. You guys have done a great job.
Well, we thank you, Keith. We take a lot of pride in it. We've employed all the principles of Xeriscape.
And what are those principles?
Well, you know, it really starts, as the landscape architect here, it starts with that planning and design. So we really spend a lot of time looking at that. Then you talk about soil amendment.
Yes.
And enriching the soil. Additionally, on top of that, zoning your plants correctly.
Zoning by water need?
Exactly.
Okay.
Then you can look at alternative turf grasses.
Which we'll be doing later.
Exactly. Warm season or cool season, depending on what your need is. Then you look at overlaying an efficient irrigation system into that.
And that could be complicated, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. I also wanted to point out that somebody did a really nice job of choosing the plant material for this area. That had to have some thought process behind it.
It does, you know, and a lot of choosing plant material, you know, involves the right plant in the right place. You know, most of the problems that we see outside in people's yards is they don't look at the mature size of the plant material.
You bet.
So they get into
and
crowded
look around
spaces.
us here. I mean, we've got nice big pines, we've got some large junipers, all of which are very xeric plants. We've got small sedums for ground covers, and some more pines and mountain mahoganies. All of these plants need to be put in an appropriate scale to the homeowner's house. Well, like these junipers are a good example. These are a large variety. They're going to get quite large, and most homeowners aren't going to be able to accommodate that. But there are small ones that can be used in the home landscape very effectively.
Completely.
And it will never get out of bound like the old Fitzers. Now, I noticed that this garden here, we're here a little bit early, and it's just not quite leafed out and not quite at its peak, but it still looks fantastic. And I see that by making good plant choices like sedums and ice plants and pines and junipers, that you have some year-round interest by adding in things like the hardscape, the rock, and the curved sidewalks and the retaining beds and the dry stream beds over there. It all gives a constant year-round interest to the landscape, and I think that's what any homeowner would want for their home.
Absolutely. You know, it's a lot about using the colors you have, the different textures, you know, taking advantage of spaces. If you have slopes, you can create terracing to help reduce runoff, use your water more efficiently. So there are a lot of things we look at.
Now let's come up here and take a look at some of these plants and situations you have here, because irrigation had to be a big issue for you. I noticed that there are pop-up heads in the ground there. There's some drip irrigation in this narrow area here. And then up on the hillside you have some permanent units, some permanent standing sprinklers from underground
Right,
pipes.
Keith. Fixed spray heads on fixed risers.
Thank you. Fixed spray heads. There we go.
Yeah. And, you know, we use those kind of in areas. It helps with maintenance with our people because, you know, if you use a pop-up in that situation, once that plant material grows in there this season, they kind of disappear, and it affects the distribution. So that fixed riser helps get your irrigation a little more evenly distributed.
And then down here you have the pop-ups that when the sprinkler comes on, the sprinklers rise above the ground and then they're gone out of sight.
Exactly, because it's in more of a visual area. So
yeah,
we use micro sprays, which kind of helps reduce the water use in those areas. It's a retrofit.
And then along here you've got a very narrow area which would make it very difficult to put in any kind of a spray type sprinkler. So you went with soaker tubing.
Exactly.
Or drip tubing.
Which is good for narrow areas on the side of your yard, or in this situation at the foot of a retaining wall.
Now I noticed that you have bluegrass in here, which some people like, some people say isn't exactly appropriate for a xeriscape garden, but you do have some buffalo grass up front that I'd like to go take a look at.
Absolutely.
All right, let's head that way. Okay, Tim, here we have a beautiful patch of buffalo grass, and obviously it's just coming out of dormancy. You can see it's still nice and brown. Look down here though, there is some green coming, but this is a warm season grass as opposed to the tall fescue you have here, which is a cool season grass.
Exactly, Keith, and it's really dependent on that soil temperature. So the cool season grasses come on a lot earlier.
They like the cool weather, yeah.
When it warms up, boy, the buffalo grass, the warm season grasses really start to pop.
Now, buffalo grass is very often recommended as an alternative grass for bluegrass, as in a xeriscape or a xeric type landscape. Keep in mind this buffalo grass will take about, what, a quarter of the water that the tall fescue takes during the summer?
Typically, yeah, from a cool season grass, you're looking at about a quarter of the application rate.
But you'll also have to be able to put up with the brown in the spring and the fall, because it's not going to be as green as this beautiful cool season grass over here. Now I notice you have this sign that says use only what you need, and that has to kind of reference the Denver water rules.
It does. Well, it references our campaign and the rules for this year about summer watering and how it should be accomplished.
Okay.
No watering from 10 to 6.
Keeps the evaporation down.
Right, exactly. Making sure your irrigation system is tuned up so you don't have overspray onto your driveways.
That's important. People need to do that.
Into the street.
Yeah.
You know, fixing leaks. If you have broken leaks or stuff, get that repaired within 10 days. We try and ask you to. And
about 3 days a week?
In the 3 days a week, yeah, absolutely. As
Okay.
far as what we ask people, as far as, you know, watering, try not to get that out more than 3 days a week. And, you know, and if it's 2 days, you know, normally you can water in the spring 2 days a week, maybe add an extra cycle to 3 days a week in the middle of the summer, and then
It's
come
extra
back
hot.
down.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now this is the Denver water rules. You would want to go to your own local city water department and find out what their rules are for your location. Now we're also going to be talking about ET in a little bit, which is not an extraterrestrial. It's the evapotranspiration rate, which you can use to your advantage. And Denver Water's website has a great tool that will help you save money this year on your water.